We are in a recession. Hey everybody, welcome back to the VIP Financial Ed channel. Matthew here, surviving in my RV. That's right, we talk all things credit, capital, cash flow here on this channel. How to beat the banks. That's right, how to bank and borrow the right way. How to still use leverage and hate debt at the same time. How to maximize your opportunities in any economic situation, which is what we're going to talk about today. I want to dive right into an article that I found. This is breaking news. Cambridge, June 8th, 2020, the Business Cycle Dating Committee of the National Bureau of Economic Research is claiming we are in a recession. Curious to know what your thoughts are. Go ahead and drop a comment below. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, consider subscribing. All of the videos that we've produced since 2011 when we opened this channel are still relevant. In fact, far more so than ever before. Although I could argue that had you been doing what I had been teaching this whole time, you'd be much better off now in this pandemic and be able to take advantage of the many opportunities that are already starting to present themselves. So let's go ahead and dive into the data and why this article thinks that we're in this recession. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think and how you've been affected so far. So the Business Cycle Dating Committee of the National Bureau of Economic Research maintains a chronology of the peaks and troughs of the U.S. business cycles. The committee has determined that a peak in monthly economic activity occurred in the United States economy in February of 2020. The peak marks the end of the expansion that began in June of 2009 and the beginning of a recession. The expansion lasted 128 months, the longest in the history of the United States business cycles dating back to 1854. The previous record was held by the business expansion that lasted for 120 months from March 1991 to March of 2001. A recession is a significant decline in economic activity that's spread across the whole economy. It's normally visible in production, employment, and other indicators. A recession begins when the economy reaches a peak of the economic activity, and then it ends when the economy reaches its trough. And then between the trough and a peak, the economy is obviously in an expansion, a bull market. Because a recession is not confined to just one sector, the committee emphasizes economy-wide indicators of economic activity. The committee believes that domestic production and employment are the primary conceptual measures of economic activity. And this is why I've been saying I'm concerned about the housing market moving forward. We'll see how all these forbearances pan out in the next 12 months or less. Now, the month of the peak. In determining the date of the monthly peak, the committee considers a number of indicators of employment and production. The committee normally views the payroll employment measure, which is based on a large survey of employers, as the most reliable comprehensive estimate of employment. This series reached a clear peak in February. The committee recognized that this survey was affected by the special circumstances associated with the pandemic of early 2020. No duh. In the survey, individuals who are paid but not at work are counted as employed, even though they're not, in fact, working or producing. The workers on paid furlough, who became more numerous during the pandemic, thus resulted in an overcount of people working in recent months. Accordingly, the committee also considered the employment measures from the Bureau of Labor Statistics Household Survey, which excludes individuals who are paid but on furlough. And this series plateaued from December of 2019 through February of 2020. And then it fell steeply from February to March. Because both series measure employment during the week or pay period containing the 12th of the month, they understate the collapse of the employment during the second half of March, as indicated by unprecedented levels of new claims for unemployment insurance. The committee concluded that both employment series were thus consistent with a business cycle peak in February of 2020. The committee believes that the two most reliable comprehensive estimates of aggregate production are the quarterly estimates of the real gross domestic product, or GDP, and of the real gross domestic income, or GDI, both produced by the Bureau of Economic Analysis. These measures estimate production that occurred over an entire quarter and are not available monthly. The most comprehensive monthly measure of aggregate expenditures, which includes roughly 70% of real GDP, is monthly real personal consumption expenditures, or PCE, which is published by the BEA. This series reached a clear peak in February of 2020 as well. The most comprehensive monthly measure of aggregate real income is real personal income less transfers from the BEA. The deduction of the transfers is necessary because the transfers are included in personal income, but they do not arise from production. This measure also reached a well-defined peak in February of 2020. The unusual definition of a recession involves a decline in economic activity that lasts more than a few months. However, in deciding whether to identify a recession, the committee weighs the depth of the contraction, its duration, and whether economic activity declined broadly across the economy, the diffusion and the downturn. The committee recognizes that the pandemic and the public health response have resulted in a downturn with different characteristics and dynamics than prior recessions. Nonetheless, it concluded that the unprecedented magnitude of the decline in employment and production and its broad reach across the entire economy warrants the designation of this episode as a recession, even if it turns out to be briefer than earlier contractions. We're hoping for brief. What if it doesn't happen? We're already seeing a second wave of coronavirus spikes in a number of states and in other countries. I recently saw a buddy of mine who lives in Panama say that they are back in lockdown. Things are certainly hectic right now, and because of the extremely fragile nature of our country, my biggest fear is that we experience, one more piece of straw that just breaks the camel's back. And my question to you is, knowing what you know now and having been through what we've all gone through, are you feeling as prepared as you need to feel? If not, it is my recommendation that you put in more time than ever looking for income and asset solutions. Income and asset solutions that can 3x, 5x, 10x your current net cash flow position. If you have hundreds of dollars left over at the end of every month, you are in grave danger. That number needs to be many thousands, ideally over $10,000 per month, for you to be in a position to not just survive another substantial downturn in this crazy year we're having, but to thrive. I mean, there are going to be more opportunities continuing to surface than we've probably ever seen in any of our lives. Don't you want to be on the receiving end of that, or on the opportunity side where you're able to take advantage and acquire? Of course you do. I mean, it's a rhetorical question. I get it. I'm not trying to insinuate that you don't want that, but you have to earn it. And the way you earn it is by concentrating on solving the short-term net cash flow equation. By solving the short-term net cash flow equation, which does not include going out and buying long-term rental properties. That does not solve the short-term net cash flow equation. That solves the long-term net worth equation. 20, 30 years from now, you'll be thrilled that you were buying properties today, that you were buying properties a year from now, that you were buying properties 5 years from now. But it will do very little, if anything, to move the needle from one day to the next. You won't feel it. So solve the short-term net cash flow equation. I've got 2 videos coming out in the next several days that are going to talk on another version of a short-term net cash flow solution. We talk about them as often as possible here on the channel. I'm going to continue to bring those to you. Make sure you're a subscriber. Stay tuned for those videos. They're going to be enormous. Those that watch them and take advantage have a very likely possibility of increasing their income by $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, even $50,000 or more every single month. It's already happening. We have the data happening right now. I would love to see you as one of those individuals as well. So guys, work on those side empires, stay healthy, stay happy, keep cash flowing. Look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care.